koutou katoa. Nā mihi nui kia koutou. I won't give you a mihi because that was more than enough. It actually made me think of my career a little bit and thought, yeah, 4 years in iwi. Did you see my before photo in the book? Skinnier. It was a lot less wrinkles. Nevertheless, yes, 4 years at Te Tapuai o Rehua. And this is going to be a little bit different. 4 years ago, when I started at Te Tapuai o Rehua, I was invited to do a presentation at Otago University at the Research Symposium. And Janine Kappa down there said to me, you can do it on anything you like. And I went, what? And she said, anything you like. But I really struggled with that because I'd been 10 years in a university. And I didn't actually know what I liked. I knew what my research platform was. I knew what I researched. I knew what I could talk about. I knew what I taught, but I didn't actually know what I wanted to talk about. So here I was out of the university and I had something to talk about. So I talked about the Hunger Games. Funnily enough, this follows me around. I can be in the Kore Club in Wellington and people walk up and go, you're the chick that did the Hunger Games. So I thought I better revisit that so that people that came to Tue Te Ako in 2012 or 13 can remember that, yes, I did the Hunger Games. So we're going to revisit the Hunger Games, hopefully. Which button do I press? Yay! So we're revisiting this in 2015. That talk at Otago University, what I actually talked about was neoliberalism and the impact of the market on universities. So what happens when you start to commodify research and you start to look at the value of things and how much they're worth when you're running a business instead of a university. So what was the impact on me personally? What happened to my practice as a researcher? And what did I end up doing? I ended up doing things that were worth the pūtea, the money. We didn't do contracts that were worth $20,000 because once you took the university overhead off, you would have maybe 2 teaching sessions to produce a $25,000 or $40,000 piece of research. We did big pieces of research. We did research that were commissioned by the Ministry of Education. We worked for the government. That's what I did. So when I came out and I came into iwi, all of a sudden I had an opportunity. I had this company that was at that time a bit of a blank space and I got told it was changing directions. You can do what you want to do with that. Wow, all that creativity out of that space and nothingness. And out of that, things have come from it. So we're going to revisit the Hunger Games. I think, how much do you know about the Hunger Games? Because you need to know a bit about the Hunger Games. It's an amazing book. As are kids' stories. Why are kids' stories so cool? Because they actually talk blatantly about some of the issues that we have in our society, and the Hunger Games does that. It talks about sort of capitalism on crack. It shows you what really will happen in the future if we pursue something that's so driven by the market that it actually perpetuates the people that hold the power, and the people around those districts serve the needs of the people in the middle. It meant that you had District 1 where all the wealth, where you see all the people with the amazing clothes and the far out hairdos and the jewellery, and then you had the districts around District 1 that served that. So it sort of like uses the analogy of capitalism and says, what would happen if it got really bad? Each of the districts does something to serve District 1. It's very commodified and very siloed. What does that sound like? So we get commodified and we get siloed and we concentrate our thing, and we do that to serve the centre. So the Hunger Games was a great way of saying, hey, what about some of the stuff that is actually happening? I think it doesn't happen to me. I'm just a wee researcher at Vic University. Actually, it had quite a significant impact on what I did when I worked at the university and what I thought. So it had a hold on my mind. So the Hunger Games is all about Katniss Everdeen, who goes into the Hunger Games and she has to sort of fight to overcome oppression. It's about her personal story of having to recognise oppression and then fight to come out of that. So I guess that talk at Tue Te Ako was all about, man, how am I going to fight this oppression, free my mind a bit and start to think differently about what's possible for iwi. So one of the things I started to think about was my job at iwi was about social good. It was about transformation and change. Yes, it was this little space in between the universities and in between the iwi. So the universities didn't own it. They partnered with the iwi. The iwi partnered with the university. There was a space of creativity and something had to happen out of that. What we knew was that it had to be for social good. It had to change things for whānau. That was the only goal. What are we going to do that changes things for whānau? And that was what led us to do what we did. So when we look at research, and you think, what's Te Tapuai got to do with research? You guys don't really do research, you do trade training, you do whenua kura, you do things like that. All of those things, they didn't come from Ngāi Tahu's money. Some of them did. No, they didn't come from huge amounts of funding. They actually started out of nothingness. So Hituki Ki Te Reka started out of nothingness, out of Hana, Iru, me, Himi, sitting around a table going, how are we going to get this started? There was a space of nothingness, and that's where that creativity starts. Then we said we need evidence. We need to show that what we instinctually think is right actually is working. That is what gives you money. When you can produce evidence and say, actually, this is something that whānau really want to do. This is something that iwi want to do. The industry are into this. This is actually working. That's when the money will come to support that. So research is really a powerful part of what you do. But I started to realise that it wasn't market research, right? It wasn't the stuff that says, you know, what kind of shampoo do you use? How often do you use your deodorant? What kind do you use? It wasn't that kind of research. It didn't serve the market. It wasn't university research. No one was ever going to give me heaps of money for that. I didn't have a whole team of researchers. It didn't serve my research platform. I had never done anything in trade training. Never. All of a sudden I'm doing research in trade training. It didn't serve my own research platform. It wasn't going to earn me any PBRF. And also, it wasn't really applied research where you look and examine your own practice. It was something a bit different, and it was the something in the middle. What is that stuff in the middle? That's not serving the market, not serving the university, and not serving the individual. There's a space. So out of our space, what did we create? Well, we had to convince universities that they were going to partner with us, with this wee small company, and that we were going to be able to drive and change research as part of that. So as part of Te Tapuai, Portia's somewhere out there. Portia is a researcher at Te Tapuai now. Iru, when we were there, started his PhD and completed his PhD in the time that we worked for Te Tapuai. Part of Te Tapuai was all about scholarship and all about producing research that actually served a social good. So you do know that Hunger Games is a trilogy, right? There's 3 parts of it. The first part's all about my ability and my freeing myself from the oppression. In the second part, Catching Fire, she actually realises that she can't free herself without being reliant on other people. So she has to have what's called interdependence. She has to rely on other people. And Catching Fire is all about the struggle of relying on her fellow tributes to free themselves from the oppression of the situation that they find themselves in. So the next part is about creating interdependence. And that's what we did at Te Tapuai. We created interdependent partnerships between Hawkins Construction, CPIT, Ngāi Tahu with Te Tapuai holding that together. Created independence, interdependence. We created interdependence in Moki Taupo, University of Canterbury, University of Otago, and Ngāi Tahu working together, interdependent. Just going to start on that picture. So part of it was about saying to the universities, we're going to do something for social good. That has had quite a profound effect. If you look at Hawkins now, they had a recent brand change. They changed pretty much everything about their brand. They said, we're now a company that builds communities. We're a company that looks at what positive social outcomes we have on our community when we're building in our community. How do we employ locally? How do we ensure that we're actually contributing to the community that we work in? A lot of those ideas and a lot of the thoughts that came from that came from Māori Trade Training. They realised that when they worked with the partnership, there was a sense of community that built out of that. So that company became more socially responsible as a result of working in that partnership. There were social outcomes for industry, social outcomes for CPIT, and again for Ngāi Tahu. So what do we do when we're interdependent and we work together on a common goal? How does this all relate to teaching? You're going, I thought I'd turn up to a teaching and learning conference. It relates to teaching. Because when we're in the university, we're told you should be doing research-led teaching, right? I used to think about that a lot when I was at the university. I'm like, hang on a minute, I supervise 10 students, I teach 10 classes, I sit on all these research panels and boards. I used to think maybe it was a way of getting me to do 5 different jobs and call it teaching. Research-led teaching. That starts to mean we have to ask questions like, what knowledge counts as knowledge? Is it only research knowledge? Whose knowledge counts? And if it's only research knowledge, and the only research that the university does are those massive big projects that are funded by the Ministry of Education, what does it tell us about the nature of our knowledge and what we tell people? What does it tell us about what happens to social justice? Because actually where social justice really happens, sometimes it happens on a stage, sometimes it does. In fact, organic researcher came from Gloria Ladson-Billings when I watched her earlier this year in Chicago, and she talked about organic researcher, and I went, oh, that's what it's called. Sometimes it happens. Most of the time, it actually happens in the community, and it happens in the very institutions that are set up to progress social good. Things like restorative justice, drug and alcohol, mental health, the things that are in our community, social housing, whānau ora, that's where social change happens. We like to talk about it a lot in the university, but where does change happen? It happens down in our community. So where is the space in the middle, research that serves the community? That's what we do. Research that serves the community. That doesn't mean that I have an agenda about it. That doesn't mean that I come saying, oh, I'll do your research on drug and alcohol as long as I can publish that under my name. No, actually, there won't be any publishing that. I will be doing the research that is for small amounts of money, because those people that are actually on the ground doing that mahi are the people that need research the most. I'll go back to He Tuki Ki Te Rika, I'll go back to Whenua Kura. When did those things get notoriety and significance? When we could produce the data that showed that they added value. The only way we could do that was through research. We had the capacity to run and make sure that we could research our own interventions. That is the only way that they actually build on themselves and replicate that and lead to change. As a result of the He Tuki Ki Te Rika evaluation, we had a national rollout of trade training on that model. What happens now to all those other models that are setting up all over New Zealand? Do they have the capacity to research what's happening in their consortiums, what's happening between them, what's happening for the good of their own social, well, what are they doing to progress social good? So research is actually even more important when you're down on the ground, because that's where you need it most. Research on collective impact, how to put together partnerships, how to understand what is new knowledge, what is creativity, what does it mean to be Māori and to be in Christchurch and to work on the rebuild? What does it mean to be injured as a result of working in the rebuild? What does that mean for your whānau? What happens when housing is so expensive that you can't actually afford to live in Christchurch? Now you have no mahi and you're getting paid 80% of what you earn. Where's the social responsibility to that? So Graham, I'm going to quote you. Does everyone get up here and quote you? I'm going to quote you. I missed your keynote. We were running a conference for teachers in Wellington, and I was a bit gutted because I'm watching you live streaming going, oh man, I wish I was there. Because I was actually part of the organising committee when it started, and I had all these great ideas. I said, yeah, you should run some tours, have people out going everywhere. You should get Pedro Norberto from America. And then I said, oh yeah, I'm leaving now. But all the faith to Eru to pull off this amazing event, and Mokawhiri, you guys, Digital Natives, what a wicked event. So yeah, Graham, I'm going to quote you. It is new formations of colonisation. This is what it means. Who captures and owns our research? We can say, oh, it's Māori research. You know, I was on the evaluation team of Te Kotahitanga. I could say, that is Māori research. That was research commissioned by the Ministry of Education, of which I was on a research team to be part of that. That has had quite a significant impact on my thoughts, captured how I think, captured what I think about teaching and learning. Or really something that I thought I was doing of free thought and mind, but actually it's part of that whole engine and churning around evidence and how we create evidence. So what are we doing now? You get to the final trilogy of the Hunger Games. We're up to The Mockingjay. If you haven't lost interest by now, do people read to the third book? Yeah, so we're up to The Mockingjay. Or go to the third movie, if you haven't just come out. So the third movie, The Mockingjay, it's all about how Katniss Everdeen, very reluctantly, decides that she needs to lead the revolution, or people put her there to lead this revolution, to say we actually have to lead change in this, and the districts are going to uprise against District 1, and we're going to take back that power that we have, etc. So we're into a revolution. What does that mean for me? Is this the revolutionary part of my career? It may be. It has meant that I have given up my university career. When I left the university to go and work at iwi, the Provost Chancellor said to me, you know, you could be a professor by the time you're 50. And I felt nothing. And at that point I realised that that was not the job for me. And I was okay with the fact that I'm never going to get an award, I'm probably never going to be an associate professor, and I'm never going to be a professor. What I am going to be is someone who works with people in the community and creates research that actually serves for people. So I want to do research that serves people. I said I want to, I didn't say it's happening. There's nothing there at the moment, no one really does it. So it's a space of nothingness. So here I am again, 4 years later, I find myself in a space of nothingness where there isn't really anything happening, but things are starting to happen. And what's happened is there's a few other people who think like me, who don't work in universities. There's a few other people out there who kind of go, yeah, I've just been working for iwi on reviewing their whānau water strategy. Wicked. So what are we doing? We come together in a collective, so that's where EHE comes from. It is a research collective of all these people out there that are a bit like me, don't want to work in the university, want to do stuff with people in the community, and we're coming together. So if you're one of those people, we'll come together and make change happen. The whole idea really is that interdependence. It's not something I can do on my own. I certainly don't have the skills to do all that in every area, but what I can do is create networks and create ways in which we can bring people together to start generating that change where it happens, to start doing things for hardly any money, but doing things that actually lead to purpose, to help other people access the pūtea and the funding that they need to be able to do that. So out of our nothingness, the opportunity to create something new. At the moment, we're saying it's organic, because we don't know what that's going to look like, or how that's going to work, or what's going to happen as a result of it. But I suppose we're kind of leading a resistance. So for all those university people out there that studied with me, when they see me and they go, oh, who are you working for? And I go, oh, I work for myself. Oh, so you're a consultant. No, I'm not a consultant, I'm a researcher. And it is an act of resistance not to work for the university. So don't feel sorry for me. I actually do it because I want to. So this is our act of resistance. Our independent researchers, we're working together and we're creating something out of nothing. So hopefully at Tuia Te Ako 2015, they invite me back in a few years when it comes back to Ngāi Tahu and they go, oh, Kath, I'll come back and I'll be able to tell you what that something looks like.